To deploy AKS cluster, search Kubernetes Service on Azure portal. Select subscription and resource group where you want to deploy the cluster. Select the suitable preset configuration as per your need. Standard works for most of the application, second option is for test application, third for workloads that can tolerate interruptions but can reduce cost, batch processing is best for compute-intensive workloads, hardened can be used when you need full security control. Provide name, select region of your choice, and select right option if you need API server to be highly available and SLA bound or otherwise. Select proper node size to be used as worker nodes for your cluster, whether you want to scale the nodes manually or automatically as per requirement. On Node Pool page select or create new node pool and whether you need customer or platform managed encryption. Enabling virtual nodes allows network communication between pods that run in Azure container instances and the AKS cluster. Virtual nodes only work with AKS clusters created using Advanced Networking or Azure CNI. You can either choose Azure-based RBAC using AAD authentication or Kubernetes RBAC to provide more fine-grained control over access to the Kubernetes resources deployed in your AKS cluster. In networking, you can choose from Kubernetes using which network resources are created with default values as part of cluster deployment or Azure CNI that can be connected to existing or new VNet. In Kubernetes networking, only the nodes receive a routable IP address. The pods use NAT to communicate with other resources outside the AKS cluster. This approach reduces the number of IP addresses you need to reserve in your network space for pods to use. With Azure CNI, every pod gets an IP address from the subnet and can be accessed directly. Each node has a configuration parameter for the maximum number of pods it supports. The equivalent number of IP addresses per node are then reserved up front. This approach can lead to IP address exhaustion or the need to rebuild clusters in a larger subnet as your application demand grows. Unlike Kubernetes, traffic to endpoints in the same virtual network isn't NAT to the node's primary IP. The source address for traffic inside the virtual network is the pod IP. Traffic that's external to the virtual network still NATs to the node's primary IP. NSGs can be used at node level and network policy can filter the traffic flow between pods. You can allow or deny traffic to the pod based on settings such as assigned labels, namespace, or traffic port. As pods are dynamically created in an AKS cluster, required network policies can be automatically applied. NSGs can be used at node level and network policy can filter pod traffic. Azure Network Policy can only be used with CNI networking. You can connect your AKS cluster to Azure Container Registry, which is a private registry to store deployment images if required, or can use images from other options like Docker as well. It can be integrated with Azure Monitor for monitoring and alerting or Azure Policy to enforce certain required policies. In advanced setting, you can integrate your key vault that has secrets with your AKS cluster and provide customized name for your infrastructure resource group that will be created as part of cluster deployment to keep all the related resources together. Then click on Create. Once cluster is deployed, you can check or change its configuration and see the resources deployed in Cluster Resource Group. For managing AKS cluster use command line client kubectl, which is already deployed if you are using Azure Cloud's HEL, or you can install it manually on your system. To connect to your AKS cluster, use AZ-AKS, get credentials command, and verify the connection using any of the kubectl commands. We will discuss about kubectl commands in another video.